Hood,
Yes, here.
Klein,
Yes.
Slater,
Here.
Tucker.
Here.
Do you want to skip to number 9, Sonia, or Todd?
Doesn't matter. That neither one of those will take very long.
I guess we're ready for an update from Timberlake and Glenn with Calvert. Excuse me, Glenn with Creeper. Who's going to start?
Glenn, you want to start it out?
Sure.
You have to explain the Twin Peaks first, though, in your background.
I'm remembering the last time that come up in conversation. We'll talk about that later. I guess a month ago, we talked about the next steps of this, knowing that we were getting close to getting the USDA financing approved, and I think we're even closer to that now. And the goal was to push as fast as we could from that point forward. As soon as we get the financing done, proceed with construction. So about a month ago, I talked to Timberlake about getting them, or letting them give the Arena Authority an update on the next steps and how that would happen. Since then, talking to the financing group and their experience with USDA, they basically added another 60 days to the process just for USDA to do all of their review and dot the I's and cross the T's, which really doesn't surprise me too much. There's supposedly appraising that's going on right now. I think Todd issued a check a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully that's underway. And there is also supposedly someone that's going to review the drawings as they currently sit. I don't know if that's part of the appraisal process or what, but whenever they call us to do that review, we'll be ready. Over the last week, we have updated the drawings from where they were a year ago. A year ago, we had all kinds of revisions on those drawings that included value engineering. So the contractors, I should say the subcontractors that had been bidding this project were kind of in the loop. They knew what was changing, they knew why and all that stuff. So now that Timberlake is about to rebid this project, they thought it was best if they started with a clean set of documents for the subcontractors to review, instead of them trying to remember the drawings, various emails, various value engineering lists that have been compiled. So as of today, the drawings are clean without a bunch of modifications, so that when the subcontractors see it, it's a clean set, like it's never hit the streets before. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, when they call for the drawings, they'll be ready to go. And Todd, I'm not sure, I guess it was the lady that we talked to 2 weeks ago that I provided a link to the drawings as they existed then. The drawings have since been updated. So I'll get back in contact with her and get her the fresh set of documents. So that's where we are. We're ready to, get started as soon as the project is. I know everyone is. But all that being said, I guess I'll turn it over to Timberlake from there. I think there is some discussion to be had later about solar, and this is a new one on Timberlake that you'll hear about today. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Yeah. We have, we're working on the bid packages now. As soon as we get the updated set, talking to Glenn, he'll have that to me today, he said. But getting, remembering everything as it was is the first step. And then also we have Kyle Burris, who will be the project manager for it. He was originally introduced in the original interview. He's got, Kyle, who did you say you had family up there, right?
Yeah, my wife
grandparents are Jerry and Joyce Egner. I don't know if you guys remember that from the interview or not, but I get to claim old Jerry and Joyce, which is always a delight. But I didn't know if you guys remember it or not, but yep.
So yeah, he'll be the project manager for it. He's getting oriented with the drawings. He was originally going to be the assistant on the project. The project manager that was on it before has moved on, so Kyle is with us. He's going to do a great job. So yeah, as soon as we get the letter and the notice that the funding is solidified, we don't have to, what we don't want to do is put it on the streets now and then have to push the bid date or push the amount of time that the subcontractors have to hold their number, especially with the volatility that we're seeing. So that's where we're as soon as we get that, everything will be ready to push play. It'll be out on the street. We'll do the 3-week bid cycle and then be able to present shortly after.
Nick, what are the subcontractors, what's their workload right now? Are they looking for work, or are they optimistic that they'll, or I guess is Timberlake optimistic that they'll be ready and that they'll have room to bid this project, or is it going to be something that they're going to already be full of work at that point in time?
I don't think that we'll run into that, especially as much as we did when it originally bid in the summer of 2019. We had so many people that said it was just too far and they were too busy in the city or in Tulsa or in Wichita to travel. A lot of those were like big projects that were in the city that they had all their resources tied up with. I think that we're seeing a more open market right now. In the public bidding scene, there's not a lot to go on, especially with volume and size like we have with the arena. So I think we're in a good position on that front for sure.
And you've already let certain subcontractors know that this is coming, right?
Yes, sir. I've talked with most of the original low bidders, especially the large scopes like metal building and concrete for sure. Actually, the concrete guy called me asking, hey, do you see any work coming up? Because we're running out of things to bid on. And I said, yeah, the Alva Arena is, we're getting really close to that one. That's going to come out in the next couple weeks. So I gave him that heads up. That way he knows to, keep that on his burner, keep his resources available. And yeah.
So Todd, probably, I don't know, it's been 2 or 3 weeks in talking to the bank people, and we started walking through that timeline. If you recall, wasn't it July that we kind of did the math, and that's kind of when it looked like this would be starting. So if we backed up from that date, and that would include the 60 days that USDA would have it, or they were done with it. If we were to back up from that point, when do you feel like the bid package should be resubmitted to your subcontractors?
Was that to me or to Nick?
I guess, Nick, I was just kind of verifying, that's what I heard with you that day, right?
Well, yes and no. Last week's meeting, during that meeting, we allowed 30 days for BKD to finish their update. And Eric Lapata said he was almost finished with that last week. He was waiting on the sources and uses. So that's carved off about 3 weeks thus far. And if I've had my way about it, we'll be carving off 3 weeks every time we meet on Wednesday. So that means we'll be starting by April. Hello?
Yes. You said starting construction by April. That's what we're thinking.
It's a pipe dream. It's a pipe dream. But,
Yeah, that doesn't account for the 60 days that we just found out the other day that USDA would have.
so you're a party pooper. Yeah, June or July is right, Nick, so we'll back up from, I'm sure hoping June, but
Yeah.
the way they're talking about, could be mid-June, or 1st of July, I'm hoping.
So I guess my question for you, if that is the date, Nick, should we back up a month and a half so as they go out, say, 1st of May to get rebid?
Yeah, I would want to have 3 weeks for it to be out on the market, and then 2 weeks for us to scope it, because we have the drawings already, or we will have the drawings already today. We won't have to have as much of a time to review. Typically when we get drawings for CM, we need to have a couple weeks to build the bid packages, because we have those. Kyle's already working on those and getting those ready, so that there's not as much or any review time on our side. We have it, we're ready, and then we push play, and it goes out there. 3-week bid cycle, 2-week scopes, and then it's ready to present to you guys.
So we
How
back,
long does it typically take to to change the Timberlake agreement to a stipulated sum whenever you have the guaranteed max price? Is that a 1-week process, or what does that look like?
I'm going to pass that to either Lanny or Casey for that.
Yeah, so it's a contract amendment, so the way it works is the base contract is already in place, in case you can correct me if I'm wrong, and so it just looks like an amendment to the existing contract that quantifies those prices agreed to, and at that point, if there's any alternates that we're taking or not taking, that's the point that we would have that decided, and so that process for us in actually producing that amendment is relatively quick. After we present, we just need a decision back from the authority on which alternate we're taking, and then we can roll that up, and it takes about a day to get that contract drafted, and then we'll get it sent over to you all as soon as it can be signed. And it's a lot shorter of a form than the original contract, so that process goes on our side, that's pretty quickly as soon as the decision is made, we can qualify it. Okay, is that how you get going?
So after Timberlake gets the bids all compiled, alternates, all of those broken out separately, at that point in time, to me, it makes sense to have that presented to the arena authority. And I really think whenever it's something like that, it'd probably be best if it was like an in-person meeting where you're going through all of that stuff, because there'll be a lot of discussion related to those. So I just feel like that would be something that would be good to have. Like if we're shooting for a June 15th date, I feel like that final meeting should be like the first week of June, so that all that stuff is hammered out, the numbers are solidified, and you've got 1 week to execute the contracts and then start the following week. So I would, I guess as a group, think about first week of June, getting together with all of the alternate price and all the bid documents put together so everyone can discuss the final numbers and how the alternates shook out. And really, for the arena authority, I feel like that's a meeting where there's a lot of decisions. Hopefully the decision is really easy. Hopefully the numbers come in to where we can do everything, but there may be some difficult decisions. So I think that'd be something that everyone needs to be ready to consider.
When the USDA has a 60-day review process, is that, I mean, I know they're looking for the document, is the funding considered solidified at that point, or does USDA maintain the ability to say, are they gonna come back and change anything, or do we know what they're doing in that 60-day window specifically? Is it just them reviewing the terms of the loan?
did she just say, do we know what they're doing? No. But, so, and I didn't mean to poke that, but, so, the packager that we're going through and the lending mechanism that we're going through have almost assured us that our project will go through. We have a really good rapport with USDA. Now, can I speak that as if I can sign the document? Absolutely not, I cannot. But we've been through that review process, and we've actually talked to one of the USDA. the person who's gonna go through, the desk that's gonna go through it at the national level with USDA, and we touch all the points that it's gonna be. It's the formality of making sure that it goes through. I don't think that it's gonna take 60 days to do that, but I think that's what they allow for that time frame. Greater American Lenders has issued, and I think maybe Glenn shared with you the letter of intent that all that says they're good with it, we just got to get USDA to sign back on it. So I don't think there's going to be massive changes in that, except we do have the opportunity to, in the event that our bids would go over, then we would have to, there would be stipulations at that point, but we're hoping that they come in less, because you've guaranteed us they'll come in less, that we'll be able to do all of our ads for a cheaper price.
Okay. No, I was curious as to that process, just so that we know, if, like I said, if they have big comments coming or that when we're working through the schedule, that's on there. So it was a curiosity question of the type and kind of feedback we were expecting.
So we're meeting with the lender on a weekly basis now, just to stay in the right tone. Glenn stole my thunder by saying that we had executed the contract for the appraisal and sent the check. Really part of the treasurer's report, not part of Glenn's report, but I appreciate him giving that early. And so that is in process, we hope. Of course, we also thought that those documents, those finalization of plans was going to be done yesterday, not today, so we're a day behind.
Everybody just smiles.
So anyway, with the sarcasm removed, that's kind of where it's going. And Timberlake, we will certainly be in touch if anything looks awry or anything begins to change as we process through these weekly meetings. We are pushing to speed the process. Right? We're ready to move, and we just got to push their buttons as much as we possibly can to get going. So with that, you guys are finished. Glenn, you're finished for now. We'll bring it back, or do you want to go through the solar piece now? You want to bring that up?
Yeah, we can, and, I think it makes sense for Timberlake to be at least in the loop, because this will be going on the site as well, and there are a couple of things that I can see maybe a possibility that we may need to, I know I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, add to the drawings. But they need to be aware of what we're thinking about. So, see if I can share the screen.
I have given you the rights to do that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I think you can only host can share on your little button click.
Didn't I change that though? Well, I've just,
There you go.
look at you go.
Seriously.
Seriously? Yes, seriously.
Yeah. So,
We can,
I guess you can see this, right?
Correct?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Good job.
So, Mike, I think you probably had more discussion with Gary last. I know you've had more discussion with Gary last than I have lately. But what I've got here obviously is the site plan with the entire building built out. This area in the back to the north of the building obviously is all trailer parking. This area over here on the southwest corner is trailer parking. This out here is kind of loose parking, but it's for passenger cars. You can see the spots are smaller. The only really, I hate to call it rigid, but the only really defined parking that we have is at this front entry right here. And we did have some discussion this morning, Mike, about where potential locations might be, and for the sake of Timberlake, we've always had a field in the back that potentially could be a solar field, and that's this corner up here. And I think that's still in play.
Glenn, we can't see. Your mouse isn't moving, so you'll have to direct me and let me move my mouse. And could you scroll up or down a little bit so we can see the north end of the structure a little bit?
Okay, what can you see now?
Basically the footprint of the building.
Okay, all right. How about that?
Did you change it? Yeah, you have to share again.
Seems like it might be frozen to share.
Is it still going to be in the northeast corner, Glenn,
Yeah, yes,
where it's always been? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so did I change something?
Yeah, that moved.
Seriously, well, never mind. Okay, so what can you see now?
Look on the
Well, we can see nothing.
Look on the screen.
I can
Which
see
one?
the solar fields.
Back
Screen.
one.
The one that's highlighted.
One says screen.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
The 3 boxes.
3 boxes. Yep. So that's where the solar has always been, and I think that is still in play.
Yes.
And as I scroll down, there's your building, right?
Yeah, it would be if we could see it, but we're having a
There we
little
go.
technical difficulty. Okay, for some reason you went away from us.
Click share. You want to do it?
All right, I'm going to
You
stop.
guys see it?
There. Okay, we're with you now. We're with you now.
Okay.
Had a little technical difficulty.
So we still have that field to the northeast, and coming from the northeast down to the building, we have an underground conduit coming to the main transformer. And at that point, that's where the metering and all that stuff's going to be for tracking the amount of energy that comes to it. So through the course of time, this is probably, Mike, you can speak to this, is probably discussions between Mike Hood and Gary Lass about other solar, and the discussion has started in regard to solar canopies. And it's my understanding those are going to be like parking shade structures that have solar panels on top. And in our brief discussion on that this morning, all we could really talk about is the area that would have car parking. Obviously, we want that out in the middle of an open field of parking because of the type of activity that will be going out there. So this is what we've got at this point. And Mike, I'll let you discuss the pros and cons, and I can help if necessary, related to where canopies are put, if they're put at all.
Well, that's a great question. Those things have to face south, and after I've got the picture with the parking lot, I'm not so sure that we can get enough sunlight on the north end of that parking lot to do any good. So I'm going to talk to Gary. Gary and I never talked about exactly where we locate these. It would probably be best to be out on the south end, out in the open, and maybe in the southwest side, which puts it opposite of where the transformer's going to be. So we're just going to have to discuss this a lot more. I just had him quote us X number of canopies, and he and I didn't have much discussion about where it's going to be located. So I got nothing.
So I guess my question is, even if the canopies aren't part of the project, if it's decided that those aren't necessarily for this project, but the field itself might be or should be considered, how will that part of the work be funded? Because right now, that's not included in any of the construction documents, other than just having things designated on the site for Timberlake.
Well, it's that's still up in the air. So the funding group actually has an arm of them that does solar and wind energy grants and or lending. And so it depends on the size of the project. I'll know more about that tomorrow. Based on the current administration in Washington and with the push for green energy, I think it behooves us to at least look through this and run this up the flagpole 2 or 3 times to make sure that we want to. And it also will certainly help us with stabilization of the utilities, namely the electricity in the future. So I think the paybacks are still positive. Tax credits are still positive. So whether it's a private funding or whether it's part of our bid package, I'm not sure, Glenn. I can't answer that yet. We'll know more after tomorrow's call. We won't have the final answer. So I think that the main takeaway on this to Timberlake is that the solar is still a possibility. And we don't know enough about it yet, but certainly by the time before the bid packages go out, we'll have that finalized and know for sure who and how it's going to fit into the project. Does that make sense?
The way this is set up, especially with the solar up to the northeast, and since we already have that area kind of delegated to that, the solar could even be something that's done even a year or 2 years from now.
Correct.
So it's not like it's going to stop anything. There's nothing that's going to be grade specific. It's just going to be digging a trench from point A to point B and putting that field out there. So also for the benefit of Timberlake, the proposal that has been received so far is all inclusive. So there would be no other subcontractor involved in it that you would have. Like if you have an electrician, they wouldn't have to have anything to do with it. Probably not even hook up the wire inside the transformer. I believe all of that is in. Mike, I also believe the fencing around that solar field is also included in the solar proposal. Is that correct?
I don't know.
So I guess that's what we know for now.
So Glenn, we would need to, put the conduit, we need to know where the field is going to be so we can run the conduit at least under the building and maybe across the parking lot too.
Yeah,
Especially under
the area that the conduit would be is all going to be gravel. There's not any paving out there.
yeah.
And we would be coming to the north side of the main building, the transformer right here. So I think all of that could be done at a later date without tearing up anything other than just digging up some gravel and repacking. So I think we're good there. But that was the reason why I was saying, okay, if we're going to be putting canopies on the south side of the building, we need to be able to get that power to the transformer. So at that point, we would need to have some sort of conduit potentially under the building, things like that, in order to get back to the transformer. So that was the only thing that I could see that would affect the electrical subcontract, is if we did have solar on the opposite side of the building. And that would be that'd be a very minimal item, just one run of conduit.
So if the only thing that's affected is just getting the power to the transformer, from the transformer into the switchgear, that's secondary that we're going to be installing. But if there need to be an extra conduit placed there, a 3-inch or whatever conduit, that could easily be done when we're there.
Yeah.
We don't want to we don't want to try to run conduit under the building later, right? So
Correct. Yeah, I think,
if there's a possibility when we need it, we could go ahead and do it.
yeah, and I don't even think that you have to run secondary conduit. I think it goes to the transformer. From that point, it's metered either going upstream or downstream. All the wiring downstream from the transformer would be the same regardless of whether or not this is done. So I think it would just be a meter that's set inside there that was, there's going to be a meter there anyways, and they'll be running hopefully forwards or backwards, depending on who's providing the power and who's using it. One of the things I think...
Well, that makes sense. I was just going to say, Glenn, that makes sense because from the transformer into the switchgear, that's secondary, the secondary doesn't care where the power source is from. The
That's
power
right.
is coming to the transformer,
Right.
and then wherever it comes from, no matter, because
Yeah.
the secondary will take the power to the switchgear from wherever, just from the transformer to the switchgear. So it's gonna be a primary conduit and wire that we're talking about here, and that won't matter for the building construction.
You know, Todd, you mentioned the new administration. One of the things I think that would be interesting to know is what makes this whole solar thing, I would say, even remotely attractive, is that OG&E has really good buyback rates. In fact, we first started talking to Gary Lass about this 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it was 5 years ago, I don't remember. Sarcasm here. The OG&E buyback was dollar for dollar. For energy produced, that's what they bought it at the same rate that you buy it at. And it would be good to know how long that is going to be the case. And also it'd be interesting to see if that buyback rate could be guaranteed by OG&E for a certain amount of time. You know, if they're good for that this year, and then they have the option to renegotiate every year, that's one thing, you know, or every 2 or 3 or 5 years even. But if that's a rate that's going to be good for 10 or 15 years before they renegotiate buyback rates, that would be good to know.
Good question.
I don't know where you get that information. I don't know if you could get everyone to give you a straight answer on that.
We'll work through OG&E on that.
But that's all I've got.
Okay. So Mike's gonna get more information on the solar side of it. We'll get more information from OG&E, finding about the years of, and the amount that the buyback's gonna be. And then we'll just keep marching forward and promise to keep Timberlake involved as to where we're gonna put these, if they come to fruition, and also figure out on the funding source whether that's gonna be part of our project or secondary. Anything else?
I think every time we talk to the people at the financing USDA, we need to get an update on them related to schedule.
You don't think that's on the top of my little yellow sheet every time we talk?
I don't know what's on top of your yellow sheet.
That's a good answer. Okay. You guys are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you want to, or if you got bigger fish to fry, we'll go right ahead.
I'm gonna go get some pizza.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do too.
We got extra.
Yeah, I bet.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Number 3, is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 15th, special meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Hood, second by Slater. Hood,
Yes.
Slater. Glass,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Cunningham, did she leave or just step out? Okay.
Treasurer's report, Mr. Holder.
The balance in our account right now is $160,183.22. We did
I haven't picked it up.
we do have one outstanding bill of $3,720 that will be paid this week, or that has been sent, the check hadn't cleared yet. We did receive a $100,000 donation towards our project this last week. Letter has been written for thanks and recognition. That's all I have to report.
Todd?
Make a
motion we accept.
So,
Motion by Slater, seconded by Hood. Slater,
Yes.
Hood,
yes.
Glass,
Yes.
Holder,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Cracker, Cunningham.
What am I voting on? Minutes?
Treasurer's report, we already did the minutes.
Yes, definitely.
Forego,
Yeah.
forego the executive session.
No reason.
Okay. Discussion, possible action regarding, skip that. Subcommittees. Updates, discussion, design.
I'll get more information on this, whether that's gonna be feasible or not, for the canopies, and where they can possibly be placed.
Management, operations committee, Todd.
You know, the time is now, guys. We need to be thinking of managers, potential management teams, groups, firms. We need to be on it. Reach out to anybody that you can think of that has an opportunity. Personally, I think there's probably some turnover out there with the pandemic and people being shut down, people maybe seeking and looking. People need to understand that this project is going to go. It will be built. We are going to be looking for management, either a team or firm. You know, at this point, it's going to be whoever can bring the most to the table for us. So I think it's real important to know. It's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll move down to see the funding.
I got a quick question for you.
No.
Mr. Chairman? Well, I'll begin the question here.
Yes.
What, and I'm not holding, what's a wild guess on, we think on time that we might employ or hire a management firm?
So, you know, some people, some schools have said they needed to be started, they need to be now, immediately. And then some people think the minute you start turning dirt, which would be 18 months prior opening, my stopgap would be, you know, within 6 months of construction. If we don't have somebody, we're way, way behind the 8 ball. I think the time is sooner than later, but, you know, this committee is going to have to make that decision.
So potentially by late fall 21?
Right. Or summer, or spring, or summer of 21. When the iron is hot, I think, is when we're going to have to, and we're going to be spending money that we don't have, you know, in anticipation of building, but I definitely think that's something that we need to do. That's just me. Financing. So as I mentioned earlier, we are meeting every week with them and moving forward at what I think is a snail's pace, but the wheels of this project have not moved fast. So it's, you know, I can just tell you that the appraisal is being worked on, and with the drawings that are completed today, we're one step closer to getting that done. Eric Lapata with BKD has done a very good job of satisfying USDA requirements and the lender's requirements. And his job is almost complete. He should be finished by next week at this time with his feasibility study. So then we'll be waiting on the next steps. I'll know more tomorrow. That's where we are. If anybody's got any questions, I'll sure try to field them.
No action, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Holder, second by Hood. Holder,
Yes.
Hood,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Glass,
Yes.